I'm looking at the climate agenda and I'm looking at what the World Economic Forum is talking about. And it looks to me like the climate agenda is going to be the next thing utilized as fear porn. Like, this is how they're going to try at least to control people. And they're looking back and saying, well, look how far we got when it came to COVID. What can we do now when it comes to, this climate agenda? And it looks like they're going to offer at first, it's going to be like, oh, this is in your best interest. You have control over it. It's the same talking points. It's voluntary. You hear all of the buzzwords again. And soon they're going to flip that. There's going to be some emergency and people are going to be, at their mercy.
Well, there's one they tried last year and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Remember?
Which one are you talking about with the climate?
Not with climate. Don't you remember that last year they tried to get everybody again and it didn't work? It failed.
Oh, yes. You talking about the monkeypox?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I thought you were talking about something related to climate.
Yeah. No. I was just talking about they tried to because people were losing the C-19 hysteria was wearing down.
And Big Pharma was, they were like, we need another.
Exactly.
And we need another financial.
Like, okay, here's the one.
And
some places declared a state of emergency and everything.
That's right.
And then, within a week, once certain news broke and they admitted it, then it was gone overnight, just like that.
So are you anticipating that? I mean, I'm curious when we talk about the Matrix and we talk about the biggest enemies coming down the pike. I had made a little list. I don't even know where I put it, but, I think of the fake meat campaign.
Okay.
Stop eating real meat.
Oh, that's going so hard in London.
Yeah, is it?
In
the
London,
Beyond Meat.
London specifically.
It's all garbage.
London, they're going so hard because they do Veganuary there. They call it
Veganuary.
So
is everyone emaciated and malnutrition?
So hard. Most people aren't even doing it, but they push like if you go on the London Underground or you're walking around the city, they're going crazy with the vegan stuff right now. Like I was just like, whoa, I want to know who's funding that. Because there aren't enough vegans
I'm sure
for it to be making
Listen,
sense.
I've noticed there's a common trend. Whenever you look at this stuff and you look at the fine print, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is everywhere. Yeah. I mean, literally everywhere. It's crazy.
You aware how much they do in Africa?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's a big rabbit hole there.
Yeah. Destruction, massive destruction. But, I see it as, okay, so now they want you to eat less healthy food. You look at the back of a box of a Beyond Burger. It's garbage. It's all garbage food. You see, big pharma drugs always being pushed first and foremost. You look at the past 2 years, how many doctors, or I say this now, doctors were actually telling you to get some vitamin D, get some sunshine, get outside. Remember when they were telling you to avoid the beaches? This is just
they're arresting people for
crazy.
Going to the beach.
So I'm wondering what your perception is before we move to feminism. And we're going to get to, by the way, folks in the chat, get those questions in. Angel is here. He's going to monitor the chat. I want to get to your questions. And hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Don't make me come through the camera. I will. I'm feisty. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. What do you think is the next thing coming our way? Because that was a testing ground. What do you think it is?
I mean, you've already pinpointed the whole climate thing is a massive thing. Look, the big one is, and this has been going on for decades, and people think it's a conspiracy theory, but it's not because there's actual documentation. But the thing that combines all of these agendas is depopulation.
Right.
It's the bottom line on every single wacky agenda.
And they say it openly. The World Economic Forum will openly talk about overpopulation repeatedly. This is not a secret for people
Bill
listening.
Gates thinks there are too many human beings in the world. A lot of these billionaires think there are too many human beings in the world. Some of them will say that in a coded way. Some of them will just outright say it straight up. And this has been going on with a real push, at least since the 1970s. This is not something that is new. It's not a conspiracy theory. So, with all this stuff, that's always the goal. So the climate thing right now is a big push, and that's already being coupled with, but you're going to increasingly seeing that coupled with anti-natalist propaganda. Anti-natalist propaganda has already been extraordinarily effective. There's not a single Western country that has an above replacement birth rate. Which is Elon Musk, obviously, is one of the only outspoken billionaires who recognizes that potential depopulation is the issue. They're all there saying it's overpopulation. Elon is there like, no, we need more humans, and obviously he has personally, done a good job doing his part. In making
he has made his contribution, as they say.
He's made his contribution there. But yeah, I think that the climate stuff is. They're going to keep going with that quote unquote climate crisis, climate emergency. It's also a stopgap because when there's no other current thing, that's always the one they can fall back on.
Right.
So if it's like, okay, people are kind of getting bored of this one, back to the climate, and then something else comes up, they push that, then it's like, okay, back to climate. And I've noticed this pattern, honestly, for the past, my whole life. This has been the pattern.
Yeah.
Now they say climate change. Of course, when I was a kid, it was global
warming.
From what I understand from people older than me, before that, it was global cooling.
Global cooling. My dad says that all the time. It's like, what's next?
Yeah. When I was a little kid, I was scared of acid rain and the hole in the ozone layer and alongside quicksand. So yeah, I'm so disappointed as an adult how rarely I've encountered quicksand. Like I spent a lot.
You're out there looking for it.
I spent a lot of my childhood worried about acid rain and quicksand. I thought I was believing this is something. Okay, I'm going to be encountering this a lot. Oh, and also remember the bomb drills as well.
Oh,
yes. You have to hide under your desk. Yeah. So I thought, okay, like when I'm an adult, I'm going to have to be, fighting these things off all the time. So the world is safer than I imagined.
Amen. For now.
For now.
Do we have chats? Do we have super chats?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's take a stroll before we get to feminism ruining men and women.
No problem. Okay, the first chat we got is by Miguel Nino. He put $10. He said, how does a man confront feminism already being married? He said, now that the woman does not consider herself a feminist, we live in marriages where there is consistently the threat of divorce.
Can we get to that in a second? Because we're going to shift into feminism now. Do you want to answer it now? I don't know if you want to.
We'll save that one.
Okay, cool.
All right, no problem. All right, the next one, we have Master Noob 69. He put $10 as well. He said, at first in Quebec, unvaccinated medical students were at risk of losing internship if they refused the vaccine. So many students just quit because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Also, we have another one, Russ, put $1.99. He said, free the Tates.
We're going to get to that.
And then the last one, we have Naughty Nurse 1987. She put $5. She said, how would you recommend to clear out all of the feminism out of your mind and be truly feminine to have a successful marriage? I'm trying very hard to.
We're going to get to that too. I'm going to get to that one for you in a second. Just let's start the feminism conversation. First of all, do you feel that feminism has ruined men and women? Because I do.
It's helped with their ruination.
Okay, so what do you think the negative impact of, I use the phrase modern feminism, but the more research I do, the more I find that feminism, as I thought was well-intentioned, often wasn't.
Yes.
And the destruction of the family was at the core of a lot of what was going on, even, way back in the day. But what do you think the negative effect has been first on women?
Yes. Wow, there's so many ways to go into this one. I would say fundamentally, what has happened is both men and women have been brainwashed and propagandized into believing that there is something inherently wrong with a man being masculine and a woman being feminine. Mm-hmm. So I'd say that it's brainwashed people to go against their biology and go against their nature and their natural God-given inclinations and tendencies and ways of being. And it's forced women into a masculine frame, whilst also taking men out of their natural masculine frame. And with that comes a huge number of problems on every level, from the political to the social to the cultural to the individual to, I'd even say, health, right? Because the truth is, men and women are different, first of all. Mm-hmm. So something that's most confusing about this age that we live in is the mixed messaging and the contradictory messaging. So in the modern Western world, you're simultaneously supposed to believe that men and women are essentially the same, but also very different, and also just social constructs, and neither one really exists.
Oh, that's my favorite.
You're supposed to believe them simultaneously.
Right.
So depending on what the situation is, I'm supposed to act like men and women are literally the same. Like we're exactly the same.
Right.
We have the same interests. We have the same way that we process our emotions and use reason and logic. We're physically capable of exactly the same things. But then also I'm supposed to believe that, it's very different because men are actually all part of the patriarchy and women are oppressed and are this victim class. But also you ask what is a woman, and they're like, a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. A man can be a woman can be a man, a woman can have a penis, a man can have a vagina, men can get pregnant and it's like, clearly, anyone who knows basic logic knows that all these things cannot be true. And the truth is that obviously men and women are different. We're the same species, so we have much more in common generally than we have different, but the differences are extraordinarily important. Without those differences, all of us actually cease to exist. None of us could exist if these fundamental differences didn't apply. We're a sexually dimorphic species. And we understand this, and men are typically drawn to the feminine qualities and traits in a woman, just like women are typically drawn to the masculine characteristics in men. But people are being brainwashed into thinking that there's something wrong with that. Right. There's something wrong with that, right? If you're a woman and you don't want to compete with men on every level and in every sphere and in every sector, right? Then that's a problem. Maybe you're a sellout, or you have internalized misogyny or whatever. If you're a man,
it's got all the code words.
Yeah, if you're a man and you really want to, you're very much in your masculine frame, you're probably toxic, or you're probably sexist somehow, or you're a misogynist, or you're this or you're that. And it just creates a lot of unnecessary conflict and confusion. And downstream, this, as I said before, everything leads to depopulation, right? It reduces the probability that males and females are going to couple up and reproduce and actually get on with each other. I think that the differences I don't just acknowledge that there are differences between men and women. I celebrate the fact there are differences between men and women. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the human species and in society. I don't look at women as some type of defective men, and it would be wrong to look at men as some type of defective women, or look at little boys and all their energy and their behaviors and think, oh, you should be more like girls. We need to change you. There's something fundamentally wrong with you, to the point you're even putting people on drugs. We need to change your natural state of being to conform to this weird box, and it just leads to a lot of misery. And I think that nowadays so much talk of mental health and depression and anxiety and this and that and trauma, and it's like there would be a lot less of that if people were not constantly sold on BS narratives that go completely against nature. I would argue go against God, go against everything that we know to be true. I'm very much in favor of egalitarian laws, right? As in, whether you're a man or a woman or whatever, in terms of the opportunities that you have and the things that you're able to pursue, I'm very much in favor of cool. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. However, we know, because men and women are different, if you give people freedom of choice, they're not all going to make the same decisions. They're going to make very different decisions on an individual level. We know this. I mean, even if you have siblings or people in the same family, they don't all end up in the same careers and doing the same jobs and earning the same money, having the same hobbies, interests. That's on a family level where you share genetics. So why on earth would someone expect that if you expand this out to hundreds of millions or billions of people, that you're going to get the exact same thing? It's why it's so goofy when they're trying to do there's only 30% women in this thing, or we need more women in right. It's so goofy. It's so stupid, because that's not how it works. You can either have the freedom, or you can force people in some type of fake equity, but you can't have both.